Hi folks, how are you getting on? How are you coping with the lockdown or the stay-at-home situation, however you want to name it? How's things going? I hope they're going well. I wonder if, like me, you're a bit curious as to how others are getting on, and maybe some that you've not seen or heard from over the last few weeks. But just curious to hear how others are coping and what they're doing and how they're reacting to the lockdown. Well, we thought it might be quite a good thing over the next few Fridays to hear from some of those people and see some faces that'll be familiar to most of you, but maybe not all of you. But just to hear how others are getting on, and it's a series that we call the Lockdown Diaries. So we're going to hear today from Moira McCarrell, and then in subsequent weeks, subsequent Fridays, from various other people connected with the church family. So we look forward to hearing from them. Okay, take care. See you later. Bye bye.
Well, during lockdown I've done lots of different things. I've spent quite a lot of time, particularly on cloudy days or wet days, blitzing paperwork. I've done loads of shredding, going through files that should have been gone through years ago. So the paper shredder's been very busy, so I've done lots of that. I've done lots of reading. I'm an avid reader, so I don't know how many books I've read since lockdown started, but that's been wonderful, just having time and having the excuse to read and just not feel guilty about it has been great. And I must admit, I've spent a lot of time watching the complete box set of Suits on Netflix, which is a wonderful American legal drama. If you've not watched it, it's great, and I've really enjoyed that. And the other thing I've done lots of is jigsaws. Not real cardboard jigsaws, but jigsaws on my iPad. I really enjoy that. So that's the kind of things that I've been doing during lockdown. Well, I guess there's loads of things that I'm really grateful for since lockdown began. Obviously, incredibly grateful to be healthy and well and not have been directly affected by this dreadful virus, which is causing such anguish around the world and even locally here in the Highlands. So very grateful for my ongoing health and the health of friends and family. But lots of other things. Grateful for the relatively good spell of weather we've had since lockdown began, and being able to come out and just enjoy being out in the garden on a beautiful day like this, just to enjoy the sights and sounds. And one of the things I was very struck by, particularly in the initial stages of lockdown, was just the silence. There's more traffic around now, but the silence of those initial weeks, and I can remember sitting in the garden just listening to birdsong, and it was beautiful, and I was reminded again of just the beauty of nature. So incredibly thankful that we can enjoy the glorious surroundings that we live in up here in the Highlands. And one of the delightful things, I sat for days on end watching a pair of blackbirds who had been nesting in the garden just behind me here in the California, whatever it's called, the bush here. It's feeding their chick. I think the chick had fallen out of the nest and it was hiding under the bushes in the garden. And watching those two blackbirds feeding its chick, there was something very special about just those tender moments. It reminded me of just how fragile life is, but I was incredibly grateful just to be enjoy even that little insight into nature going on despite the mayhem that's going on round about us. So lots of things to be very grateful for at this time. Of course, although there's lots of things that are that we're thankful for during lockdown, there's also loads of things that are really difficult, and I guess the kind of things I find difficult, some of these you'll relate to. I guess the most obvious one is the frustration of not being able to see family and friends. For me, in particular, that's one of the things, is not being able to see my mum, who's in a care home in Inverness. And I can't even phone her or write to her or Skype call because of her poor eyesight and poor hearing. So I'm entirely reliant on staff phoning me to give me an update, and they've been very good at that, and I'm very grateful that she's healthy and well, but it's just difficult not to be able to go and visit. And obviously not seeing friends, that's really hard. We've all got a circle of friends that we spend time with, and it's hard not to see them. For me, one of the things that I really miss is walking Elaine's dogs with her, two beautiful Irish setters, Rua and Cassie, and I've not been able to do that during lockdown. So I'm really looking forward to restrictions being lifted, and being able to walk the dogs and get out into the fresh air, doing that activity. And also not being able to play golf. Again, on a lovely day like this, it would be perfect for golf. Great golfing weather, maybe not great golf, but at least great weather to get out in the golf course. So again, I'm looking forward to restrictions being lifted, and being able to get back onto the golf course and attempt to play one of my favourite games. So that's challenging and frustrating. And above all, I guess, like many of us, just not being able to meet up with our church family. It's one thing to do that online, and we're also grateful for things like Zoom, although it was frustrating when the whole Zoom process crashed on Sunday and we couldn't have our usual coffee at noon. It wasn't just a local issue, it was right around the world. Zoom crashed, and that was frustrating because I think all of us really look forward to that hour on a Sunday when we can at least see each other once a week. But it's not the same as being in person, so meeting in person. So again, I'm really looking forward to when all of the restrictions are finally removed and we can get back together as a church family, and meet up in Kinmiley's. I suspect the day that happens, there will not be a dry eye in the house. Certainly my eyes, I suspect, won't be very dry. So that's challenging, not being able to spend time in person with our church family. As I say, it's great to be able to do it online, and we're so grateful for the technology that allows us to do that, but it's not the same, is it? So lots of things that are challenging. At a time like this, we all need encouragement, don't we? And I think in Kinmiley's we're pretty good at encouraging one another in various ways. I certainly know in our house group we have a WhatsApp group together, and regularly we send one another verses and songs that are really encouraging, and often they come just at the right moment when we need to hear it. But let me read you a verse which has always meant a huge amount to me ever since my very early days as a very young Christian way back in the 1970s. I remember discovering it for the very first time in St George's Tron in Glasgow. And here it is. It's Jeremiah. It's very well known. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Let me read it to you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And my prayer is that that verse will encourage you as it encourages me so much. We live in times where there is real fear for the future. We don't know what will happen. We wonder, will we be infected? Will we lose family or friends to this awful virus? Will people become ill? What's going to happen to the economy, to our jobs, to our livelihoods? There are so many uncertainties, and it would be very easy to be bowed down under them. But God's word comes to us again and again with words of encouragement, and that verse reminds us that God is in charge and He knows what's going on, and He cares, and He intervenes, and whatever happens to us is entirely within His plan, and He will work it out for the best, for our good in the end. So I do pray that that verse encourages you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. God bless.